Okay, earlier this month we rolled out an article where we talked about quadruped and some of the different variations of quadruped that we like to use. We threw some names on there just because from a quadruped standpoint, anytime we have our four limbs on the ground, that technically is quadruped by definition, but this quadruped, this quadruped, this quadruped, this quadruped, pick any other variations of quadruped, they're all technically quadruped. But each one presents its own unique mobility and motor control components to it. And each one has its own benefits. So hopefully as you were reading through the article and trying those out, you kind of experienced some of the unique mobility and motor control requirements or requisites of each one of those postures. Now as we're getting to the end of the month, we're going to share one of our little prep sequences, prep series that we go through that in and of itself can be a little on the challenging side, and we call it our bottom of series. And essentially what we're doing with this is we're transitioning people from quadruped into something else. So one of the first ones that we go through is we make the transition from quadruped, where we're right here, to quadruprone, the top of a plank. And where the importance comes from is in how we choose to generate the motor control to accomplish that transition. So to make this transition, what we need to do is we need to make sure our hands are actually out in front of our shoulders. So it's a little bit of an elongated quadruped position. And then all we're going to do from here is we're going to push our feet behind us, keep our hands where they are, and as we do that, we end up, knees come up off the ground, top of a plank, and then back down, where just the transition forces things to turn off and to turn on better than any verbal cueing that any of us can give. The transition creates the sensory experience much better than our words do. So that's the transition from quadruped to quadruprone. The next transition that we like is quadruped to the bottom of a deadlift. So for this one, we're going to go with a little bit shortened quadruped position. Now my hands are right inside my knees, they're just barely in front of my knees. And all we're going to do is we're going to lift both knees up, push the heels to the ground, bring the elbows up to the knees. Keep checking on that bar because I was too lazy to unrack it. And then we're going to come back down to the ground. Both knees up, heels to the ground, into our deadlift position. We can do the same thing as we go from that shortened quadruped. For this one, I've widened my stance a little bit, shortened quadruped into the bottom of our squat. So again, we're going from one posture into one of our stance postures, but we're making that transition, and again, we're creating that sensory environment when we do that. We can do the same thing, quadruped into quadrille, where we technically have all 4 points of contact on the ground. Transition up. Now, for it to be bottom of the lunge and not just half kneeling, this knee needs to be off the ground. So we can pick up from here. Or for giggles, we can lift our knee up and make that transition. Either way, unique things are going to happen, both a little bit different. Same thing out of open half kneeling, where we can come here, find this nice happy point of stability in between, and come up. Then the last one of my least favorites, is where we transition from quadruped into the bottom of the cossack. So same thing, quadruped, both hands, both feet on the ground, lift our knee up, push back into a cossack position, and back down. So, as you can see, just in this short little 5-6 minute video, I worked up a little sweat. Not faking it, that's real sweat. My fluffer and spritzer aren't on staff today, so it didn't come over. It's a nice cool day here. It's only 86 degrees and 30% humidity, so not bad. But the neurological load on this is quite high. Going from quadruped, figuring out the motor control strategy, to go from that quadruped posture into one of our bottom of sequences. You can ladder this, do one of each. You can go through, do 2 to 3 of each one, work yourself all the way up to 5. Making that transition from quadruped into the bottom of each one of those postures 5 times, if you do that, you're ready to go do just about any workout that you could come up with. So, hope you enjoy. Let us know your feedback.